Leslie Miska this week. She's on vacation, and I hope she's enjoying her vacation and getting lots of rest. As is standard for these meetings, if you should have questions for any ODES staff, myself, please find your Q&A icon within this Zoom meeting, and our team will work to answer those as quickly as possible. I do have a couple of items for this week. We are hoping to get the weekly communication out. Hopefully today. I'm still working on that, trying to include some Q&As from some of the meetings that are for the whole audience. So hoping to get that out later on today. So you should be getting that in your email inbox later on, probably like 3 or 4 today. There was an Evergreen production deployment from our vendor on the 19th, so April 19th, and it did address 23 defects within the system. I want to just share some of those items that were corrected within the system. We also had a DVE, which is our development platform, where we do all of our testing and everything. We had a deployment to there as well on Tuesday of this week. So our testers are working to test those fixes as well. So what happens is once those are tested and they are approved, then we'll move them to production. So we are always continually doing these sprint cycles to try and get the system running as efficiently as possible. But on Monday morning, some of you probably saw some of the items that were deployed, and some of them were the active person-centered plan, the PCP, should be showing as active equals yes now. What that does is it permits case managers to do a revision of that plan. And without that active yes, they weren't able to do that. So that should be fixed now. If there's any case managers on this call that you're finding that you don't have an active plan marked as active yes, then please email us at evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov, and we'll look at that and try to rectify that for you. When you do email us, could you please email the person ID and the form ID that you think should be showing as active? That way, that will help us determine what is the issue that's going on and rectifying that. One of the other items that was deployed was that in the SIP invitation, when the case manager is doing the SIP invitation, when they search for providers, it will allow them to remove the service without having to add it again and be able to add it again. So it was preventing them from being able to do that. So now they're able to do that. Another item around program management. That's more on the state side, I do believe, and we're ability to create a non-standard reconsideration packet when there is a standard application that exists. So we do have that ability now, where we didn't before. The comprehensive assessment, it was lacking in a couple of the domains, the domain for health and wellness, home and housing, and community engagement. It was lacking the add need button. So our vendor FEI went ahead and created that. And so each of those domains has an add need button now, where they didn't before. Under the person-centered plan, the print option of that plan, it was duplicating the description of scope and the provider. It actually was quadrupling it. So now it's only showing up one singular time. So that's a good thing. Another item around the HCBS rights mod addendum. It had, when we added the HCBS rights modification addendum, it was requiring the completion requirement of summary of the review. It had that completion requirement. Well, it's truly not a completion requirement, so we removed that so that you can process that without having to make sure that that summary of review is finished. It should be finished, but if it's not, you can still complete that form. And the last item was around the brain injury care monitor. We had the inability to add staff assignment at the staff assignment tab. So now that is available. That role is under the staff assignment tab. And that is pretty much what I had for you this week. We can move on to the question and answers. Q&A. We do have a few. Okay. Chris, we still have a number of SIPs from EIS that are not in Evergreen. I believe this is part of the problem with one of our PAs. How is the progress of getting these entered? So Chris, I'm assuming that they didn't migrate over like you expected them to. So if you could actually email us with that information, that would be great. What you expected to be in EI or Evergreen, and that's not there. That would be great. We can do a little bit of research on our end. Wendy Hershey, are providers able to view?
Emily's addressing.
Okay, yeah, she got it right before, right as I was. I'm
So
like, wow, where'd
sorry.
I go?
So
That's
sorry,
right.
Lisa.
No, you're good.
I was just guessing, Wendy, that maybe it's the links within the PA utilization report aren't successful for you. And my understanding is those will be removed because it's not signed that a provider, with provider authorization role would be able to follow a link through to the forms section of a member's record.
Thank you, Emily. Ariana asks, we are still having issues adding goals, receiving error message. If there is any update to when that is being fixed. Nancy, have you?
Sure, I can take this one.
Yeah.
Yep. So this is back when we were having issues of some error has occurred with setting plans to complete, and there was one other reason we were seeing that error. They have been fixed. Those two errors were fixed, but there was also some error has occurred when trying to enter goals, and that one I do believe hasn't been fixed. I'm not sure what day would be better. We can obviously bring this to a day and find out where that's at, but I recall that I've heard this more than once.
Yeah.
So, since those other two were fixed.
Okay.
If they want to send something in with the screenshot of the error, that would be
great, because then that way we could just make sure that it is the same issue. We may be able to, it may be something different that we may be able to fix for Ariana. So Ariana, if you want to go ahead and just email us if the information, the person ID and the form ID.
And a screenshot would be great.
Yeah.
Evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov.
And she said she'll do that. Thank you, Ariana. Bethany, I have a SIP that has been completed, but the case manager is unable to select the provider within their PCP. Is there a way to assist with provider selection? Yes. That case manager needs to reach out to evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov, and we can help them with that and just determine where we are at in the process with that location. It could be just that the location needs to have the service added to their location. It could be a whole host of items that we may be able to fix for them. So please have the case manager reach out to us.
Lisa, this one is a little confusing to me because the way it's written, it sounds like they have a SIP that has been completed, but the case manager is unable to select the provider.
That's a good point. If it's in the SIP, it should be in the PCP.
Right. They should have already selected the provider if they received a SIP. So I'm just concerned about the way that's written and whether or not we need a little more detail about that.
Sure. Bethany, if you could maybe provide a little bit more detail for us, just to make sure that we're not missing the mark on that one for you. Phil Sebra. Hi, Phil. For some of our community support auths effective with PCP date, an annual auth is being created, and for some 2 6-month auths are being created. Is there a way to ensure that these auths are all 12 months? Emily?
So I think what's happening is when authorizations auto-generate from a PCP for review from an initial or an annual, they display as an expanded PA. So again, it's creating, I hope I'm saying the right lingo here. I'm not the, I'm not a person that works in claims, but I believe they're called lines. But if an authorization is created manually, it may be that a single, I think it's called a single PA is created. I didn't realize that.
Oh,
I think we lost her.
oh no.
That's okay. When she comes back, we'll circle back. Brandy Eaton, did we find out if there will be a meeting specifically for ICF IID facilities? I don't know if Derek is online on. I know that was in Derek's court, and he was going to set up a meeting. I will get back to you on that, Brandy. We'll table that, and we'll ask Derek about that. We were also given and completed a SIP with a status saying provider selection. So
Yeah, I'm still a little bit perplexed. Like, given it in paper or is it sent by invite to the system?
yeah. Chris, could you email us with that information, and that might be helpful so that we can look at that. It sounds like it's a one case issue, so we can look and see what's going on there. That might be the best bet. Bethany, I was able to complete the plan, but the case manager is unable to complete their side because it reads pending provider selection. We are assigned to the plan, so I do agree this is odd. So, that's the SIP, Nancy.
Oh, okay, let's see. Maybe I was confusing Chris's with.
Yeah, this one's the SIP where the SIP is complete, but
Let's see.
Bethany Sykes.
Yeah, should I be able to access the reports once those? I do have a provider authorization role. So yeah, PCP data entry, I assume that's what we're looking at here.
Yeah, I
It has
think
to
so.
do with SIPs. Should I be able to access the reports? And again, reports is not my area of expertise. I'm not, is she asking for about the
No,
report that they?
the one down below, Bethany Sykes.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're all right.
Able to complete the plan, but the case manager is unable to complete their side because it reads pending provider selection.
This is the same one, Nancy, where they yeah.
But Bethany is sounding to me like a provider, and so I'm just confused in the way I was able to complete the plan. A provider doesn't complete the plan. The case manager, she can complete the SIP and then submit it for review. At which point the case manager would then go in and review it and approve it, which then would send it to plan. That's about the SIP. So I'm guessing this is what we're talking about.
Yeah, I do believe so.
She was able to go in and submit it for review is what I'm thinking she's saying, but the case manager is able to complete it because it reads pending provider selection. I'd have to have the ID, the person ID, and go and look at that. It's a one. I don't think I've seen this with any other situation. So
Yeah. So Bethany, if you could just email us with the person ID, Evergreen person ID, and the form ID, that would be great. And then we can go ahead and try and troubleshoot from our end. We'll probably reach out to you and maybe do a screen.
It looks like she said there's a couple others within that are like that. So I will. She wants to give me more in that email. That'd be okay, Tim.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nancy. So Chris answered invite to the system. So I don't really know.
I go back to Chris and see what he had. I still have a number of SIPs from EIS that are not Evergreen, that are not in Evergreen. That's the one we had with having the issues. You already answered that. You already answered that one.
Yes, and then Yeah,
I
that
was
one.
also given a completed SIP with the status saying provider selection. So there, obviously I'm seeing that this is now we've got two people saying it. So we'll just need the information on it. So I think Uday and I had looked at, this might be the same thing that Uday and I looked at on Wednesday afternoon. And we were supposed to do yesterday morning, go over it again to see what was going on even deeper because it was at the end of the day. And it was a bigger fish than we could fry in the half hour we had to deal with it. So
Mm-hmm.
if they want to give me that information, there'll just be more to support a ticket if we need it.
That'd be great.
So, yep. Please still, Chris and Bethany, send that information to me.
Do you want it directly, Nancy, or do you want it to go to
Yeah,
Evergreen?
you can send it directly. I don't mind direct emails. Everybody heard that.
And it's nancy.j.kitchen, correct?
AITCHIN at maine.gov.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's see, we have somebody else here. Aaron Martinez. I completed reclasses in EIS before the migration, but they did not migrate over. Do I have to redo the reclass in Evergreen?
I don't know if Emily's back, but
Donna.
yeah, Donna might be, or
my connection last. I apologize for that, folks.
okay, no worries.
So Aaron, I think we are trying to be reasonable. I think it sort of depends. For example, there are some folks where I guess I want to say completion means different things to different folks. So sometimes people said, it was completed, it was reviewed. I see the resource coordinator made an entry. Of course, that's that's something which was our error if the date was not then also updated in QNX. But all that to say, I think we're being if you haven't seen guidance, I think we're being as flexible as possible, where folks are able to submit sort of the non-standard packet to be, not doing a full comp assessment necessarily, attaching the BMS 99, linking to any plan, even if it's, not the active one. We're doing everything we can to be giving assistance and reaching out. So I think the thing to do, Erin, we're asking case managers with questions to email hcbs.waiver@maine.gov. So if you send us a quick email with the specifics, we can look into it and then help you. But again, if you do end up submitting, I hope your experience is that it's very painless. I think we're trying to be, again, as this is not, follow the letter of the law of the training that you may have seen back in Evergreen back prior to launch. We've really tried to make any accommodations necessary to make this doable and easy given some of the challenges folks have had.
Thank you, Emily. I can probably speak to Phil's question a little bit. A lot of that is how Evergreen is set up. So we're doing authorizations for a year time. So there will always be two lines. And so I'm not quite sure. Are you just looking for one authorization for the service for a year? Is that what you're kind of looking for, or 6 months? I guess it's more, I don't know, Emily, maybe I'm not doing a very good job answering that question, but
I think I think because I've looked at the PA utilization report to try to see what providers see, I think I understand what you're asking, Phil. In terms of changing how Evergreen works, I mean, those are more long term, and it wouldn't be a fast change, is what I guess the the quick answer is in terms of changing how it was designed. I think, I'm certainly from a different role and vantage point, obviously. I think when I get these kind of questions, it does throw me for a loop a bit because, when we approve an authorization, it's not saying, here's 5,200 units for a year and use them whenever. It's an approval specific to the hours per week specified in the PCP. So I understand that that anytime there's sort of a break in an authorization, there's a potential that it can break in sort of an annoying way. And we do try to be reasonable. Like, again, there's been requests for folks when there were, this is back to end of 2023, but somebody's saying, well, proportionately, it doesn't make sense to break up an AT assessment authorization where there was a few units in 2023 and a few units in 2024, because they didn't complete that assessment until entirely 2024. There was nothing that was completed in 2023. But for other services, I think, again, I guess my feedback would be that if the hours are being delivered as the member requested in the PCP, I don't see a difference. If there is, again, one authorization broken up into 2 lines versus if it is for a year. I understand, though, that anytime that things look differently, it is kind of annoying or less than ideal. So I think that's something we can discuss further. And thanks for your feedback, Phil, from your end, that it's something that, just feels a bit, I don't know, cluttered or disorganized, or that's the wrong word for it. It is strange when you're looking at authorizations for community support, and I'm just using it as an example. And some have 2 lines and some don't. So I can understand that.
Thank you, Emily. And the next one is probably you as well. Katie Averill asks, we have numerous expired authorizations, and any CCM I have reached out to stated that they have sent in what they needed to. How long does it normally take for a new authorization to show up in the system?
So what I share is, so we, again, is a high volume, as folks would imagine. Every time folks have created a new PCP, or it's all with the team. So we're talking certainly thousands of requests is not overstating things. But all that to say, most recently when we looked at, we're still refining sort of the data so we can do our own tracking, but folks may not be aware that we get a state review when a case manager moves a PCP to that status. We complete the state review, we advance it to pending provider selection. Then when a plan enters complete status from a case manager, from that point, again, is where we receive a notification or see the information on a query that, again, that a plan is ready for that final review and that authorization should be generated. When we looked most recently, we were looking at about 10 days or 7 business days. There's of course outliers, I think, which are, so that would be, again, from when a plan is in complete status and we receive that notification. There were a few instances, of course, where folks may say it took longer than that. And, we apologize for that. I think that in some instances we looked into it and tracked it back to a short time period where we weren't receiving some notifications, still catching up from that. Everyone's definition of complete too is a little different, because sometimes folks say, well, this person's been waiting for months. But that relates to when, the member first decided they wanted the service, or a provider may have thought something was complete, but the plan wasn't complete yet. So everyone's clock is a little bit different, but so it's hard to give a general answer. But again, I think I am very proud and want to give a lot of credit to Alexi and Donna, the waiver specialists, and all the resource coordinators. We know, again, that the system has had some challenges, and it gets only more frustrating, of course, when people are sort of waiting for authorizations. We know that every provider should have a current authorization when they're delivering services. I think the difficulty, of course, for case managers, and also for our team, has been learning the system, but also the fact that Evergreen really is set up to really require that advance time ahead of the plan effective date, in terms of when a case manager starts a comp assessment and holds an annual plan meeting and submits a plan for review and invites providers to attach SIPs. And so all that to say, I think that was some of the difficulty folks experienced with March and April PCP effective dates. Just the volume has been really high. And there's been that learning curve in terms of folks learning how to use the system, which has made it even more difficult, I think, to sort of, to have everything finished before a member's plan effective date. So I'm sorry that's a long-winded answer. If a case manager is saying they've sent in what they need to, I believe them, of course. It may just be that, again, that because there's a high volume and it's very tricky sometimes to keep up with that, given again that folks have still been learning some of the quirks. So waiver, again, even though the email volume is high, if you do have concerns, you're still welcome to reach out. Waiver providers, we've shared that the right path for them to reach out with concerns is resource coordinator ODES at maine.gov for case managers with, again, sort of from their perspective, urgent questions or concerns. hcbs.waiver at maine.gov is a path where they can reach out with questions. And we're doing our very best to be responsive to those urgent needs or folks saying, this is really needed or a service can't start or things like that.
Thank you. That kind of answers Lisa Preston's. It's HCBS waiver at maine.gov. HCBS.waiver at maine.gov. Let's see. Tammy Usher. So to clarify, going forward, OS will be 6-month spans for shared living and not a 1-year date span. That is correct. Wendy Hersey, what do you mean by provider authorization role? As someone who enters SIPs for the provider, do I have a provider authorization role? If so, and I don't, how do I gain access? So provider authorization role is just another role within the system. We have a SIP. SIP provider is a SIP data entry. So basically you have ability to enter the information into the SIP as you need to. The provider authorization role, I do believe, gives you authorization to see the report. So if you need that type of access, please email evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov, and we can go ahead and add that to your role. All right, let's see. Carol Kane asks, we have T2021 authorizations that are 6 months also. Some are, and some are yearly offs. So some of them might have come over from EIS. So it's hard to know what so you could have a mix of both. So anything usually that's generated within Evergreen will have, from the PCP, will have 2 that are both 6-month offs for the year. I hope that helped, Carol. Okay. We've gone through all of the question and answers at this time. I really appreciate everybody bright and early on a Friday morning at 8 o'clock. Please continue to email evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov with your concerns or issues. If it's pertaining to, like Emily said, if it's pertaining to authorizations, then please hcbs.waiver@maine.gov. So I really appreciate everybody's participation this morning, and please let us know if you have any additional questions. We'll see you again next Friday. Thank you all.